In just a few hours, the world will be over.
Yeah, what's up? You're interrupting my platforming whimsy. I haven't uploaded a review in 3 months. I put out a video on Patreon just back in November. That doesn't count. No one pays for that shit. Oh, fuck you. And I already used this joke? I need to stop getting sidetracked by gotchas. Welcome back to Dot Hack. It feels like only yesterday we were just here. Yup. Only yesterday. On the previous episode, we finished the main story of G.U. Volume 3, but we got a lot of extra content to go over, including the 2 additional endings. If you're really just here for Volume 4 and nothing else, you could skip to this timestamp, but you're going to be missing out on most of the video. We got a decent handful of random topics about G.U. I want to cover before the end here. I had to come up with some bullshit to fill the runtime, or else you guys would have waited a year for a video that's 20 minutes long. So then I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's not waste any more time and get right to everyone's favorite morally questionable TV host. Before we go any further into the ending stuff here, we got one dangling plot thread left we need to cover. To do so, we're gonna need to go to the news section of all 3 volumes and open up that glorious red tab that says Online Jack.
This is Salvador Ihara's Online Jack. We investigate the hottest controversies in today's news. The in-your-face, hard-hitting show. Welcome to Online Jack. Okay.
Online Jack is arguably the most interesting and important of the many news updates and articles you can find on the desktop. A series of 9 anime shorts that drops new episodes as the drama around the world unfolds. They follow investigative reporter, senorita lover, and fuck chuckler extraordinaire Salvador Ihara as he attempts to dig up the truth behind doll syndrome. You know, it's a good character design where you could tell absolutely everything you need to know about him just from looking. I absolutely adore his hidden camera, which is a giant fucking GoPro strapped to the side of his head.
It's me, Salvador Ihara, born in Brazil, raised in Saitama, friend to lonely housewives.
Hey!
From concept alone, I appreciate Online Jack, as it's our only real lengthy perspective into how things like Ida and doll syndrome affect the real world. It's also just entertaining to watch, not just for purposeful reasons like Salvador's completely out of place, exaggerated Brazilian mannerisms.
Oh, nurses! It's a party! Carnival! Samba! Samba!
But also for unintentional reasons.
Terrible news!
Huh?
Head teacher! Oh, it's only you!
Why did he slide up the frame like that? Where the fuck was he? Yeah, I'll be the first to admit it doesn't look amazing, but I can forgive the lack of polish considering its novelty and completely optional status. Well, it's essentially a free half-hour OVA shoved into your video game, which is a very nice addition regardless. That's not why I'm bothering to talk about it. See, Online Jack contains G.U.'s most fascinating lore drop. I've BS'd around this point for 3 videos now, but now is the time. Online Jack reveals who Sakaki is, and what happened to him after the Azure Knights wrecked his shit. During his sleuthing, Salvador finds himself checking in with an elementary school class. This leads him to a child who's been infected with Ida, presumably by Sakaki, considering he mentions his name. While he is taken to the hospital, he manages to somehow escape when nobody is watching, leaving the names of the epitaphs written in blood on the wall. Much like the G.U. gang, Salvador, along with Michiru Tajima, the boy's teacher who is worried about her students, also comes to the conclusion that Sakaki of Moontree is the cause of these incidents. After consulting a Professor Sugai on the matter, a man who wrote a book all about doll syndrome, Michiru gets an email telling her to come to the school alone that night. Good thing Ida knows to use red lights to indicate evil. Several students who have contracted doll syndrome suddenly appear in the school's computer lab, as if possessed by something. When they try to attack her, Salvador crashes through the window to the rescue, coming face to face with the brilliant evil mastermind orchestrating this entire scheme. Prepare yourself for the awesome might of some fucking little jerk-off. This 10-year-old child, Toru Ukie, is Sakaki? I can't even begin to explain all my issues with this. Well, this does sort of answer Sakaki's increasingly childish and erratic behavior. It kind of just opens up a million more questions that are even more confounding. A 10-year-old is in 4th grade. They're not hatching a complex emotional manipulation scheme involving suicidal teens. They're struggling to write a 3-paragraph essay about the city of Ember. I know this is just like an anime sort of thing. Like a 10-year-old in anime land is like a 15-year-old in any other fictional story. Like, I love Full Metal Alchemist to death. It's probably my favorite series ever. A 10-year-old ain't doing this shit. Sorry. Salvador is knocked unconscious for a time, but he and Michiru still manage to escape. After recovering, the Online Jack crew reconvene with the professor and decide to head straight to CC Corp's 4th development office, an abandoned lab once used to research superconductors and other suspicious, not entirely video game related activities. Their timing could not be worse, however, as they catch the final moments of the rebirth during their search, and the worldwide power surge debilitates them long enough for the police to find and arrest them for breaking in. Remember that CC Corp has been up to awful shit and covering it up for some time now. While CC Corp tries to bury Salvador and Michiru for what they've both done in exposing the company and Ida, the professor leaks all the information he uncovered about the Ida incident, swaying enough of the public opinion against CC Corp to free the Online Jack crew. After Haseo and the others defeat Cubia and resolve the network crisis, the school children are found in some old house. They don't really go into detail about it. It turns out their memories of the entire situation, of being corrupted by Ida at all, have been totally erased. Even Sakaki, it seems. The final shot is of Salvador and Michiru in the corridor of the hospital, seeing a woman leave after her doll syndrome was cured. The only glimpse we get of one of our protagonist's human forms.
Opposing mirrors of hope and despair. That's what Ida is.
So, like, is it better or worse if Ovan knew he was infecting a small child with a mind control disease that debilitates and kills people? Because, like, if he didn't know, that's really negligent and dangerous on his part. And if he did know, he's just kind of a dick then, right? I'm only mentioning this one because it's on the title screen this entire time. I don't know what it is, and I had people asking me what the hell it was. So parody mode is... Have you ever seen those clips from dubbing sessions where the voice actors go completely off script and just say some stupid shit they think would be funny over the footage?
I bought you that computer so that you could use it for studying, not gross websites.
I want a girlfriend. I want a girlfriend so bad.
Ovan, please belittle me again. Insult me so hard, Ina.
Yeah, these are kind of like that. It's cutscenes from the 3 games with the voice actors redubbing them into weird shitposts. It's kind of like an official abridged series sort of thing, I guess.
Haseo. I suck. I suck so much I even suck at sucking. I'm the worst.
Maybe I'm not cut out for gambling.
It's a guaranteed win, dude.
She's too damn old!
What? How dare you speak to your mother that way?
They're pretty hit or miss, to be honest, but the absurdity of the whole affair at least had me smiling the whole way through. I can't just show all of these, but I would recommend watching them for yourself if you're a fan of G.U. It's nice to hear the voice cast having fun reprising their roles for a bit at the very least. There are many adaptations of the G.U. storyline. A manga, pretty sure there's some novels, the game itself, and Dot Hack Trilogy. Well, I simply do not have the time to read and review an entire manga series inside this existing video. I do have time to watch a movie. Though I really wish I hadn't bothered. I just feel like I had to mention Trilogy because it's just so weird. Heads up, editing might get a tad strange here, as Trilogy is a film, so I'll likely get copyright striked if I spend too much time on it. One of the creators of Dot Hack had the idea for Trilogy when considering fans that would like to enjoy the story and eye-catching cutscenes of the G.U titles, but didn't have 60 plus hours to go through them all. Basically the thing that I do. Well, it was originally intended to just slap together all the game's CGI cutscenes on a disc and call it a day. That apparently only came to around 70 minutes and just didn't seem like an idea that would hold up as a purchasable product. So the project was reworked into an original film with brand new animation instead. Dot Hack G.U Trilogy is an animated movie that condenses the events of volumes 1, 2, and 3 into about an hour and a half. The question on my mind going into this was very basic. How could they summarize 60 hours of RPG into 90 minutes? Still no answer for that one. Dot Hack Trilogy is not a good movie. It is a pretty selection of AMV fodder anime scenes with the visual flair and soundtrack you expect from the series, which makes it an alright bonus for those that have already played the 3 RPGs, but as a standalone film, which is its stated reason for existing, it has almost no value. The story is boiled down to focus almost solely on Haseo, aptly, and Ovan. All the other characters either have reduced roles severely or are cut entirely. Syllabus and Gaspard, who are those losers? Alcade, reduced to a single boob jiggle fan service shot. Sakubo, deleted. Entrance, more like ND's nuts. Sakaki, how about see ya? The tournament and everyone associated with them. Nixed almost completely. Cubia, the 8 phases, Tartarga, Pat Sprig's newest roommates. This is an hour and a half long Haseo x aptly shipfic rewrite of the trilogy, with almost all of the cast and character development cut out, watching helplessly as it barrels headlong into plot point after plot point with some of the worst pacing you can imagine. It fails at its purpose of being a way for time-crunched people to see the narrative of G.U completely. It is the barest possible skeleton of a framework of an outline of a story. I'm sure that even if you had seen this blind, without experiencing the rest of Dot Hack, you would still be able to instantly pick up that large swaths of story and characters are missing. The best moment to explain this wealth of missing content to you, if you have not seen Trilogy, is when Haseo berates aptly in Volume 1. This happens about a half hour into the movie. You know the one. It's one of the biggest, most famous scenes in the series, and it happens about halfway through the first game. The next scene, I swear on my life, is the ending of Volume 1. Even in my video, which features a drastically shortened summary, there is almost an hour in between these two events. The movie jumps from what could be considered the bottom point of Haseo's character arc to him apologizing to aptly in 2 minutes. They even cut the blow-up where aptly shouts at him for treating her like garbage, removing any scene that could possibly lead to this point. He goes from hating aptly to loving her in less than 20 minutes. I am dead serious. Oh, but there is one other smaller change that really bugged me all the way through. I guess it's more of a personal thing. I'm being nitpicky as usual, but I'm kind of just curious if anyone else noticed that Volume 2 and 3 are missing. They're gone. They're not in the movie. We go from the end of Volume 1. aptly is affected by Ida, Yada does some computer wizardry, Haseo enters aptly's inner world just like the classroom from Volume 2. He confronts a corrupted aptly who does have a very sick design. They hug it out, she's all better. That's it for Volume 2. That was 10 minutes. Hell, that still puts it over Volume 3, which is not adapted. Period. Ovan's motivation is still revealed to be Aina, but we cut straight from Haseo battling him at the end of Volume 2 to their fight in the creator room, which is now entirely different because, as I said, there are no other characters in this nonsensical schlockfest. Rather than Haseo reaching his greater forms by acknowledging his friends and allies and how they're willing to help him on his journey, Haseo just gets super angry at Ovan and unlocks the movie exclusive, oh my god, this is actually real, beast form. This is too much even for me, and I used to make Dragon Ball Z Linkin Park AMVs. The only thing I like about this is the name, because I think beast form is great wordplay. Haseo goes crazy, gets slapped around even with his buff. aptly gives him a smooch, and hey, forget that moment of reflection and self-actualization. Now Haseo gets the X form because his GF is just so cool and great, and made him realize that being a big meanie is bad. This movie is so shit. Shooty shoot Ovan, explodes, everything's better now, the end. Let me be clear that I have absolutely no problem with Haseo x aptly, and it's very clear that's meant to be the canon ship. That has nothing to do with why I dislike this. I dislike this because this actually feels like a fan fiction. Hyper-focus on 2 or 3 characters and their relationships, big angry Edge transformation, ignoring all the characters that they don't like, everybody acting over-exaggerated and kind of out of character, like a weird flanderized version of themselves, like Haseo constantly screaming and scowling 24/7. It's just hilarious, brilliant. The feel-good event of the summer, 15 out of 10. We need to go back to the game now. I need to remember why I like this series in the first place. Before we boot up Volume 4, there's a couple events we need to handle in Volume 3. Some pretty significant post-game content here. We'll start with the least significant event and work our way up. Throughout all 3 games, you'll see these active battle areas that you can force your way into. Almost always, you'll stumble into a random player about to be PK'd. You help them out and get a small reward for your troubles. In Volume 3, these will start to occasionally be replaced by one of the 7 infamous chaotic PKs. You can tell the difference because they got a fancy nameplate. After crashing enough parties to beat all 7 of them, you can check forum posts to catch a rumor about a possible 8th member. It seems you need to read this post in order to get the final member to start spawning. So you beat her up and nothing happens. Turns out the game expects you to head back to the community posts again. Here, you'll now find rumors that green girl, Natsume, has been seen hanging around in Bregapano with someone in gold armor.
You there! That's a fine look in your eyes. You've come at just the right moment.
In order to teach her more something, Pyros kinda awkwardly foists Natsume onto Haseo against both of their wills.
Man, I just picked up another weirdo.
Natsume's thing is that she's obsessed with edge weapons and is chasing after the many tales of Tri-Edge, believing it to be a sword rather than a player, which probably explains why she bothers hanging out with Haseo and the gang at all. She's so smitten by said swords that she becomes manic and blanks out when a powerful blade is up for grabs, which you have to assume is the reason she's running around beating the shit out of everybody. And that's really it for Natsume's questline. I figure it's because the Edge Maniac here is sort of an Easter egg in and of themselves. While there are many characters in G.U. who are secretly characters from the IMOQ games, Natsume is probably the most blatant, having the same name and more or less the exact same design. We'll talk about her again when we get to the first 4 games eventually. When the final boss is defeated and the credits are over, we have a few more messages to skim through. Converting saves for Volume 4, a bunch of bonus member addresses including Zelkova, Bordeaux, Shino, and the 3 Azure Knights. And on top of that, the Promise Card. The Promise Card is an invitation that can be sent to another player of the world to initiate the marriage ceremony. Not totally unheard of, tons of MMOs have marriage systems in real life. In Dot Hack G.U, you only receive a single Promise Card, and it can only be given to a party member whose affection has been maxed out. You can raise affinity through your responses to scripted story messages, sending the others greeting cards that ask them a variety of personal questions, and most straightforward, just playing the game with them in your party. This makes often missing characters like Alcade or Volume 3 characters like Bordeaux or even fucking Shino pretty time consuming to woo over. Whoever you end up picking, the Promise event works for both lovers and best friends, meaning that all party members, regardless of gender, age, or sentience, are options. So some are platonic, and some are romantic, and some are as your kite. In the PS2 release, you're only given the one single card to use, but in Last Recode, to save completionists the trouble of save scumming, you're granted enough cards for all possible endings. One could assert that this ruins the finality and seriousness of the choice, but 1, the Promise Card doesn't do anything, and 2, there wasn't anything stopping you from save scumming in the PS2 version anyway. I'll spare you the sappy sweetheart talk scenes, because it doesn't really jive with the tone of the rest of the video. In general, they're cute and funny, but there's a lot of what I can only describe as romance manga-isms.
I'm holding you responsible.
But remember that Alcade is still objectively the correct choice. The final piece of story-related content and the true ending of the original Dot Hack G.U trilogy can only be reached by finishing the last leg of the Abyss quest. The festivities kick off with a forum post as tradition dictates. Follow the area word, the little wizard fellas resurrect Ceranos. Yeah, already done this twice. The Forest of Pain is opened, the final and proper post-game dungeon. Oh, wait, there's something else here first.
Tabby. She'll be waiting for me at the Forest of Pain.
Tabby for the cat character, huh? How original. Tabby, like Philo, was a player introduced exclusively in Roots rather than any of the games themselves. She is an ex-member of the Twilight Brigade and your expected overactive catgirl sort of character. She wants to meet Haseo at the Forest of Pain after not logging in or seeing him for quite some time. This is how I prefer Dot Hack handles these supplemental characters and materials. It's fun and novel to have extra characters show up for additional content when you're probably not expecting them, and they don't have a huge impact on the story that feels like you're missing huge chunks of context if you aren't familiar with said supplemental materials. Haseo meets with Tabby as we enter the Forest of Pain as planned.
Where's Tabby? She told me in her message that she would be at the entrance. Wait a sec, did she go in by herself?
Oh, did I say entrance? I meant floor 50. Yes, my MMO-loving pals, the Forest of Pain is a 100-floor super dungeon to correctly prepare you for the shocking mountain of time you're about to pour into this place. The average story area is about 3 to 4 floors and takes about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. Even if we hyper lowball it, we're gonna be here for a while. The place is structured into blocks of 5, 4 dungeon floors, then a boss on the 5th. In the 4 exploration floors, you'll be given a side objective to complete that will give you bonus rewards if completed. Problems arise about now. The Forest of Pain is not balanced for in-game content. Shocking, right? Like much of Dot Hack G.U, and compounded by Last Recode, the balance suffers because of the developers trying to account for every level of player who joined at any point in the trilogy and did any level of extra content. So if you're like me, and I know I am, your max level, have fully decked out gear and Ultima weapons, and you'll be one-shotting stuff for a long time. You're not even getting cores or bonding quickly with your teammates because the monsters are so weak that you won't be able to Rengeki any of them before they die. You couldn't possibly need money or supplies by this point, and most characters are at or near max level. This is an eternity of walking through hallways with no incentives, puzzles, visual shakeups, or interesting set pieces. Even if you just buy 99 smoke screens and rappel your way through the entire thing, which means you won't be getting any of the rewards, it will still take you 2 or 3 hours.
Haseo?
Hey!
You came!
Get off me!
There are actually 2 versions of this cutscene, showing that the developers did think ahead for party construction. The reunion plays out slightly differently depending on if Shino is with you or not. Still though, as I said, there's no big plot revelation here or anything. Just a small scene to shout out people who saw Roots. While Tabby says this is going to be her last day playing the world so she can focus on nursing school, she still gives you her friend code and becomes a selectable party member. A sweet gesture, but you won't be using her because she's like 20 levels short of being remotely useful at this stage. When you head back into the godforsaken slog maze, it's acquired a zany new twist. The checkpoint teleporters every 5 floors are gone, and the remaining 50 floors plus the true final boss have to be completed in one go. If you leave, you'll have to drag your ass back up from floor 51. This means that now's the time to make certain you're maxed up on items and your party and equipment are upgraded as much as they can be. This is the final challenge, so you don't need to worry about wasting anything. You can also go mess around with the doppelganger one last time before returning, as if you've kept up with the quest until game 3, you'll get some super weapons to help you out. Though, truthfully, they don't make much of a difference by now. The last thing I want at this point is for Haseo to be even more giga-wanked so the game is even less threatening. Now, around floor 50 is the start of the game completely giving up on trying to have enemies outscale you or have devastating attacks, and instead resorts to just giving every single enemy a status ailment auto counter. You will be constantly silenced, charmed, put to sleep, paralyzed every 2 or 3 hits, more or less forcing you to either tank your way through all the damage or use the dual guns exclusively, neither of which is remotely fun and both of which makes battles take significantly longer than they should. There are gear slot items that can nullify individual status ailments, but first, even with 3 slots, you can't cover all the possible effects and would have no way of knowing what counter ailment each enemy has until you've been hit by it. And 2, because the game is fucking with you by this point, there is a material that gives you sweeping immunity to status effects. that drops from floor 90. If you're wondering why I'm not describing what happens here and I'm just kind of blowing over it, it's because nothing happens here. It's just dungeon floors, just generic dungeon floors with the same enemies and everything that you've been fighting the entire time. There's nothing here. I use this phrase a lot, I know, but this is content for the sake of content. That's it. They couldn't even be bothered to like change the colors every couple floors or something. The closest you get to variety is on floor 86, where the game drops any pretense of not trying to be a gigantic fucking time sink, and the physical immune mobs start spawning. None of the mobs in this chunk of the forest take physical damage at all, no matter what. Only magic and awakenings can hurt them. Technically, you can teach Haseo magic, but his intelligence stat is so bad that you're barely doing any damage anyway. As I'm sure you could tell from my tone so far, the Forest of Pain is awful. Completely dreadful. This is the reason I put off this episode for as long as I did. I truthfully just did not want to play this fucking level. I am being 100% literal when I say that the Forest of Pain takes longer to beat than Volume 4 as a whole. Like, yeah, there's good rewards for completing the missions, but the game's over now, it doesn't matter. At floor 100 is a fully revived Ceranos, and he's the worst boss in the series. He's barely even a fight. And after 3 post-games and 100 floors, players really deserved something better than this. True Ceranos has 2 attacks. They're both arm swings. That's it for offense. His defense is complete BS. His core is equipped with the most obnoxious counter barrier in the game, activating every single time he is hit. This means your only choice really is to slowly plink him to death with your guns and remaining spell items for 10 minutes. Perhaps there's some strategy here, some item you're meant to use, or maybe there's a way to target another part of his body that I couldn't figure out. I don't know. It doesn't matter because even fighting him this way, I was able to beat him on my first attempt, so I never really had a chance to try out any other strategies, nor did I have any reason to because he was so easy, even with this obnoxious handicap. For completing the Abyss quest once and for all, you get the Guide to Divinity, which increases the rate weapon proficiency levels up, doesn't matter, game's over, as well as the DGZ pistol set, with the hilarious ability of reduces enemy HP by 95%.
What? This is...
Haseo suddenly warps to the Sword and the Stone, the same place he arrived in Roots when he received his early class advancement. A large figure asks him a series of questions meant to judge his personality, and we get one last look at how Haseo's outlook has changed over time. When the questioning is finished, while the strange figure cannot bequeath the sword to Haseo, it does offer him a single wish.
Could it be? Ovan, is this really what you wanted?
Philosophical dialogue about how he and Haseo are entwined by fate. But that's the note that I wrote to remind for myself to write something here later, but I didn't. Fuck it, close enough, it's fine.
Ovan! Wait! Ovan, he'll be back someday. I really don't know how I know that. I just know he will.
It's been about 1.5 years since the Ida incident was resolved. In that time, Haseo has barely, if ever, logged back into the world. Ryo Misaki has become a member of NAB, the Network Analysis Bureau, and with the help of Pai's player, Saiki, has been searching for a way to save Oban, who's still been comatose since the rebirth. But time is no longer on Haseo's side. Bugs and corruption of the game's base code have been snowballing since the Cubia attack, and CC Corp has decided that on New Year's Eve, they'll be shutting down the World R2 for good. Haseo worriedly returns to the game one last time to find whatever part of Ovan's soul is still missing before his mind is deleted along with the rest of the game. Volume 4 is a very restricted experience and is more focused on telling a closing story for the Dot Hack G.U universe than offering a robust RPG in any way. Almost everything is disabled right off the bat. Emails, Crimson Verses, area words, any side quests. This is not some sort of additional post-game, it is a linear epilogue. The gameplay itself, the engines and menus and graphics and all that are the same as the other 3 entries. The only real visual updates are the pre-rendered cutscenes that have been added, which I promise I'm not trolling when I say they're pretty much identical to the FMVs featured in Bandai Namco's various Sword Art Online video games. Haseo and Pi find the words for an unknown lost ground, and wouldn't you know it, Ovan's been chilling here the entire time. This ain't your everyday ice though, it's another system-surpassing anomaly, so a regular player bound by the world's rules could never break it. If only we knew about some kind of power that surpassed the system parameters. As Haseo returns to Makanu to consider his next move, the entire gang appears to offer their help. Despite Haseo's desire to perform this operation in secret, Shino told everybody about it anyway. This gives you a chance to chat with everybody. The game does this a few times, and I get why. It is insane to be seeing these characters again 10 years after the series ended. It's like a little reunion special, so they want to make sure you get at least a few moments with each character, even if they're not plot relevant. They're charming, I like them. Bringing the focus back to Ovan, it looks like Skaith would be the only way to break him out, but between volumes 3 and 4, Zelkova removed Skaith from Haseo's character. Having absorbed all 8 phases of Morgana, Skaith was deemed far too dangerous, fearing that it alone could trigger the anti-existence. While Haseo heads out to go find Zelkova and get back his epitaph, he catches the attention of someone near the Chaos Gate.
Hello. Are you Haseo?
Huh? Looking for me?
Are you Haseo? The same Haseo who a year and 3 months ago won the Arena Triple Crown? The same Haseo who a year and 3 months ago won the PK Tournament? The same Haseo who a year and 3 months ago grew Canard into a huge guild? I have a favor to ask. Please, would you mind coming to this area?
Why should I? Who are you?
That man in Quahome Cavern, Ovan. He's part of what I want to discuss.
Now, I was sincerely hoping that since Volume 4 was new content and is very short, CyberConnect would have done something resembling level balancing. Of course they didn't. If you enter Volume 4 with your redemption save file, you will steamroll what content is here. The level for story dungeons is a measly 135, which is probably too low even for the final boss of Part 3, let alone anyone who touched the Forest of Pain. We finish the dungeon. The girl tells us that a disgusting creature, Shadow Vigulta, wiped out most of the people in the net slum, and her brother along with it. She only agrees to tell Haseo how to help Ovan if he rescues her brother first. Okay, kid, that's great, but we're trying to do a thing right now and saving some random boy.
He's called Zelkova.
Ah, funny how stuff works out like that. Haseo tries to battle Vigulta. We can't. Go to the net slum terminal. Got it. At the bridge of Tartarga, Pi pops in to help fix the terminal, while Haseo has another round of chatting with his friends, with Sakubo, Entrance, and Kun now being added back to the party list along with everyone else. Pi gives Haseo a mod program that's primarily based on the research he'd been conducting at work. Said mod program is capable of correcting errant data, at least small parts of it, but that should still be enough to disrupt any corrupted monsters and delete them.
Hey, I'm the one you want to fight.
Well, was sort of expecting more from that. We did save the deer boy, though. When Haseo explains that he came here because his sister, Kusabira, wouldn't stop pestering him about it, Zelkova tells Haseo he doesn't have a sister and has no idea what he's talking about. Whatever, he's safe. Let's get our epitaph back so we can save my favorite character. Zelkova explains that Cubia won't appear if the 8 phases are not pure, saying that if there was something slightly off about Skaith's code, it would probably still be safe to use it. And so, having figured out what she is without telling us, Zelkova suggests using Kusabira to introduce an imperfection into the epitaphs, dampening Skaith enough to avoid triggering the anti-existence.
here.
Wielding a blade that embodies the 8 phases of Morgana, the 5th form removes all the other forms entirely, completely outclassing them. The other weapons become unusable. To still imbue some variety into the gameplay, Haseo gains 8 new skills, each one based on the epitaphs. They can be used in a doubled up sequence, where you select one of the first 4, skill trigger again, and then get access to the remaining 4.
Merciless decapitation! Bloom of destiny!
And look at some of these things, goddamn. While fun to play with and visually impressive, 5th form pisses me off. Not because it's bad, that has nothing to do with it. It pisses me off because of what a gigantic waste it is. This is such an awesome form with a great mechanic and cool animations, and all this effort went into 20 minutes of gameplay maximum. So much time and effort clearly went into 5th form and its design that I can't help but wonder if Volume 4 was meant to be more substantial when it was first pitched and got severely scaled back. Oh, we're done, by the way. We're heading to the final boss now.
Ovan. Ovan! Come on, wake up! The ice is gone. Open your eyes. There's someone desperate to see you. She's been waiting for over a year. I've been waiting. You can't just sleep your life away! Wake up right now! Get up! Come on! Wake up! Please! Please, Ovan!
Damn, Yuri's still pouring it all out for this role. Consummate professional, that man. As you can tell, Ovan is still unconscious until Kusabira arrives. Oh, those are black balls. Those are the bad black balls. Because we still somehow needed to fit a twist into a 2-hour game. Kusabira is actually a cognizant representation of Ovan's Ida infection, the voice in his arm that he used to speak to.
Ovan!
Ovan tries to explain himself one last time. Having achieved the goal he'd planned for so long, he feels like he's done everything he was meant to do, given up and made peace after he activated the rebirth. He intends to just die here. Though, as expected, Haseo doesn't accept that for an answer.
You freaking idiot! Freaking idiot!
Our handsome edgelord refuses to let Ovan give up and fade away. Remember, kids, unnecessary self-sacrifice is bullshit.
So, welcome to the world.
But we still need one last little bit of gameplay, so the boys get sucked into the outer dungeon, and it's time for some good old-fashioned, outer outing with Ovan. The pair run into Vegalta again, there's exploding babies, it's got an annoying shield that regens every time you deal a certain amount of damage to it, so the boss has a scripted amount of time it seems to take, no matter how high your level is. Which sounds like a complaint, but I'm just glad the battle doesn't blow by in 10 seconds. No, CGI or not, I recognize that background. Ovan realizes that Vegalta gets stronger as the world deteriorates. It's drawn to the flaws and aberrations in the system. Aberrations like Haseo, for instance.
Come on. Come on. I am. We are. Right here!
The two boys power up together and create Skaithbenik, so they can defeat the powered up, is that fucking Serenos? And the one Sin. Oh my god, the entire thing is just a big melted ball of post-game bosses. Glad they managed to squeeze a little avatar fight in here, and it allows you to use Skaith's third form a little more with the rapid lock-on shot. But like much of the rest of this DLC, it's more about story and spectacle than any kind of actual gameplay challenge. One sepia tone montage later and the world is saved. for a few hours because they're still shutting it down today.
Ovan!
Anna.
Ovan!
Anna.
Welcome back, Ovan.
You shouldn't close the game just yet. You'll receive a final director's message informing you that Ovan can now be unlocked as a regular party member. This appears pointless on its face. The game is completely finished and the post-game content is locked in Volume 4, but we'll check it out anyway. This gives you the option to go on a dungeon crawl with Ovan, and while it has no unique content and is just a standard romp, there are a few exchanges with him where they try to rehabilitate him one last time, having him apologize for his carelessness and dragging everyone into his plan, thanking Haseo for saving the lost ones that he created. As a certified Ovan hater, Volume 4 as a whole does do an alright job at warming me up to him a bit. Having him speak and act much more casual and like a friendly person rather than a cryptic plot-spewing cockhead who murders everyone actually makes him decently likable. Who would have thought? Completing this dungeon gives you Ovan's promise ending. Since you can't access your email to get to it the usual way, wait? What the hell? A dialogue choice? What does... Hey, I said he was likable, not fuckable. What the... Volume 4 as a whole exists to give closure to Ovan's part of the story, and by extension, the players of Dot Hack themselves. CyberConnect has made it very clear that they would love to return for more Dot Hack games if given the chance, and I think Volume 4 shows that more than anything else. I don't think Dot Hack is dead for good. It just looks to be up to Bandai Namco at this point to decide to continue the series. Hell, in recent years, CyberConnect has been working on their long-dormant Little Tail Bronx series with the Fuga games, the second releasing just last year. So there may be a chance for Dot Hack just yet. At the conclusion of Volume 4, as you're given a final chance to say goodbye to everyone, Pyros, of all people, has some peculiar dialogue when you speak to him. He says that he isn't upset about the world ending because it'll go on forever. He mentions CC Corp's next project before stopping himself and insisting he can't say anymore. He tells you to expect something great and be patient. The next world is on its way.
People, the world itself, all linked by some ineffable, invisible force. Hearts and minds intertwine, and thus another new world comes into being.